This is Luke from Couch Troll Brewing. Beginning of the month, time to do my monthly Pauper deck tech. Today, I'm doing a deck. Ask the question: is it Blitz? Let's get started with the creatures. Creature package. I'm running 11, which is actually a little bit high for Izzet Blitz. We have 2 Elusive Spellfist, which is a 1 of the blue for a 1/3. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Elusive Spellfist gets +1/+0 and can't be blocked this turn. If it can live your first couple turns, especially if they know you have some of the big hitters coming down the pipeline, they might leave this one alone, and it can chip in some reasonable damage while you're setting up the big turns for your the other more notable cards in the deck. Moving on to the next creature in the deck. 1 of the red, Kiln Fiend. It is a 2-mana 1/2. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Kiln Fiend gets +3/+0 until the end of turn. This is the card that leads to the most explosive starts. If you ever played against Izzet Blitz and you don't kill it on turn 2, you're probably going to be dead on turn 3. We got a 4 of Nivix Cyclops, which is a 1, a blue, and a red for a 1/4 with Defender. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, it gets +3/+0 until end of turn. It can attack as though it doesn't have a defender. This thing is hard to kill. It takes a turned on Galvanic Blast or, some reasonable black removal. They're not just going to be able to disfigure it out of the way, though. And a 1 of We Dragonauts. It is a 1/3 flyer for 1, a blue and a red. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, it gets +2/+0 until the end of turn. So not as good as the Cyclops or the Kiln Fiends, but can still chip in some damage and a bit of a backup win con. Some Izzet Blitz decks run 4 of Augur of Bolas. That's great for finding your cards, but you have plenty of cantrips that can do that. And the Augur of Bolas is not a threat. The best thing it's going to do is chump block, get it out of the way, maybe stonewall a creature for a turn or 2. If you're playing Blitz and you're running the Augurs, I don't think it's where you want to be. Moving on to the instant and sorcery package, we have a 4 of Gitaxian Probe, 1 blue mana or 2 life. Look at target player's hand and draw a card. It's mainly in here to pay 2 life and storm 1 more card for your Cyclopses and your Kiln Fiends. You're playing against a more aggressive matchup, something where your life's kind of threatened a little bit more. You might pay the life and pay the blue mana and draw a card, but it's not usually in here for that. 3 of Brainstorm, 1 blue mana, draw 3 cards, and put 2 cards from your hand back on top of your library. Use cards like Evolving Wilds to be able to shuffle stuff back away, maybe a Ponder or Preordain just to get rid of the cards you don't want in your hand. 2 of Dive Down, 1 blue mana, target creature gets +0/+3 against hexproof until end of turn. This is great versus spot removal, can save your creatures from Evankar's Justice, stuff like that. A lot of people play the main deck Dispels in this deck slot. I'm going with the Dive Downs. People tried it a little bit when it first got printed, but they've kind of got away from it. I still think it's a really good card in blue. 4 of Ponder, 1 blue mana. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put them back in any order. You may shuffle your library. Draw a card. We have a 4 of Preordain. Scry 2. Draw a card for 1 blue mana. Great for card advantage. Great for card selection. Throw away the lands you don't need. 1 of Slip Through Space. Target creature can't be blocked this turn. Draw a card. There's a few other options you can take here, but the Slip Through Space just answers the majority of the questions. It has some extra utility over some of the other stuff in the format. 2 of Lightning Bolt. Hopefully going face, but can, back up crowd control if your opponent's getting a little too cutesy or a little too aggro-y on you. 3 of Mutagenic Growth. There are no green lands in the deck, so this is always going to be pay 2 life. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Put it on a Kiln Fiend or a Cyclops, it's +5/+2 until end of turn. So pretty awesome. 1 of main deck Apostle's Blessing. 1 and again 2 life because there are no white sources in the deck. Target artifact or creature gains protection from artifacts or the color of your choice until end of turn. So it can get through a board of Affinity, can get through a board of any mono-colored creatures, or just save your creature from a targeted black removal spell or a lightning bolt or a scred. 3 of Daze. Not Blitz decks have been coming around on days, but it can still catch some people on surprise when you're playing Blitz. They just assume you're just going to keep pounding face. 3 of 1 in a red. Teamer Battle Rage. Target creature gains double strike until end of turn. Ferocious. Target creature also gains trample until end of turn. The trample is really important, but the majority of the creatures you want to cast this on are already... All the creatures are already evasive, or the smaller creatures are already evasive. And the bigger creatures, even one spell is going to put them over 4 power, so it's automatically going to give them the trample. So this is always going to be double strike and trample on a Cyclops or a Kiln Fiend. And finally, 3 of Gush, 4 in a blue. Nobody ever pays that cost, although that did happen in a game I played against an opponent yesterday. They did end up casting a Gush. I about fell out of my chair. I was like, oh my god, you can cast that for mana? Usually it's tap 2 islands, return them to your hand, and draw 2 cards. Instant speed. There are no artifacts and enchantments in this deck, so we will go straight to the land package. This is a Blitz deck. It's heavily based off from a Mox Boarding House list that's been in that won April's Mox Boarding House and took second in May's Mox Boarding House. Rags to Riches event. Piloted by Lauren Mulligan. So it's based heavily off her list. There's a few cards I didn't want to put into the deck. Mostly the Metamorphosis. I was just like, it's not my style of Magic, so I put in some more interacty type spells to be able to protect my creatures. But the mana base I kept exactly the same. There's no actual dual lands in the deck. The deck has 16 lands in it. 3 Evolving Wilds and 3 Terramorphic Expanses to be able to fetch out your 7 islands and your 3 mountains. You really want... It's running pretty light on lands, and you're thinning them out as you go, so your Preordains, your Ponders are less likely to hit those 2 or 3 lands that just kind of make your deck stall out. And if you're running the Izzet Gain lands and the Izzet Guildgate type mana base, you're a lot more likely to run into those scenarios where you're just kind of... You gush into 2 more lands, and then you're just kind of there. So I went with this mana base. I kept it the same. It has served me quite well. I'm learning that you really need to focus on getting the mountains early unless you need to hit your second island to make sure you can gush when you need to. But for the most times, you're drawing islands pretty heavily with your Ponders, your Preordained, so you just want to be able to get the mountains out. Once you get 2 red sources, just cut all your blue lands out of your deck. Moving on to the sideboard. This could probably use some more work. There was a couple of other cards that ended up getting swapped in and out based on mostly availability on my MTGO account. 2 more Apostles' Blessings to really help versus those targeted removal decks. 2 Hydroblast to be able to fight through red matchups. 3 Vapor Snags for when you need to get the giant Gurmag's Anglers out of the way so you can snap in for lethal. 3 Eldrazi Sky Spawners, which might look a little silly, but when you're playing against an Edict heavy matchup, I like them a lot. Being able to chip in damage and leave back blockers and have Edict effects can prove quite useful versus like mono black matchups. 3 of Pyroblast for fighting through blue base decks. 1 of Flaring Pain to try to stick it to Tron. And the other Teamer Battle Rage. The deck did have 4 in the main. I did trim 1 to the sideboard. There's enough card selection in the deck to where you don't necessarily need all 4. At least that's what I found. I end up staring at 2 in my hand, and it's like, what am I supposed to do with the second one? It's just, sometimes you do have to cast it for lethal, but I'd rather just have 3 to try to have the 1 to be able to finish off the game, and have a little bit more interaction to protect my creature. So, that's where I went with that. I'm going to be running this through a league in probably a week or so. I'm still churning through the deck, trying to get the lines right. I don't just want to run it through a league and go 1-4 because I really don't know how to play the deck. I got a month. I want to take a little bit more time than just trying to get it out by Friday to, get it out by Friday. So I'm going to play it for a week, kick it around a little bit, maybe switch out a card or 2 in my sideboard because I feel that's really, there are some opportunity slots in here that I can probably improve before running it through the league. Thanks for watching the video. If you like what you saw, consider subscribing. You can follow me on Twitter @GeekLukeG. This is Couch Troll Brewing.